ng ating mga tagapanayan, ng mga pinahagi. At ngayon ay simulan na natin ang open forum at kung may mga katanungan ay unang pakilala niyo ang sarili niyo at ilahad ang tanong at kanino niyo kanino niyo pinatato yung tanong sa apat natin ng mga tagapagsalita. Meron po ba ibig magtanong, magkomentaryo, magbigay ng opinion, puro-puro? Ayun. Pakigamit lang po yung mikropono sa gitna.
Good afternoon po sa lahat. Ako po si Nat Candelaria. And then, i-address ko po sana yung question ko kay Dr. Mendoza. If the Marcoses were not rehabilitated as you claimed earlier, then what would be the dominant idea with regards to the Marcoses in the first place? Do you think that the events after EDSA 1 affect the thinking of the people with regards to their family? Thank you.
Kailangan akong baguhin yung premise ng tanong mo. Kasi sinabi ko, hindi na nila kailangan ng rehabilitasyon. Pagkatapwan, kung kailanganin man nila at wala namang pag-asa, sira lang ang imahen nila sa mga katulad ko na dumaan sa martial law, lumaban sa kanila, pero sa mga karamihan ng mamamayan, hindi kailangan i-rehabilitate ang kanilang imahe, lalong-lalo na, tulad ng nabanggit ni kasamang Eusebio, wala namang halos pinagbago yung mga post-Marcos na mga kalakaran. Hindi sa ordinaryong tao, hindi masyadong malaki ang pinagbago ng kanilang kalagayan. Kaya hindi nila titignan yung kalakarang Marcos na kasintama. Sa mga nagbibigay ng kahalagahan sa demokratikong proseso, sa mga laban sa authoritarianismo, masama ang tingin sa Rehimeng Marcos. Ang komplikasyon kay Marcos, kalahating elected siya mula 1965 hanggang 1972. Nakaupo siya bilang elected na presidente. In fact, siya ang kauna-unahang re-elected president ng ating bansa. Tapos mula 72 hanggang 86, dun siya umupo bilang authoritarian leader. So yung assessment mo kay Marcos, mahirap na pagsamahin mo yung dalawang period na yon. O kung gagawin mo man yun, kailangan bigyan mo ng distinction yung dalawang period na yon. Of course, yung mga defenders naman niya, hindi nila gagawa ng distinction yon. Isasama lahat nila yun, tapos sasabihin nila, siya ang pinakamaraming ginawang mga daan. At ang haba kasi ng kanyang pamamahala. At ang sagot ko naman doon, natural, ikaw yung nakaupong matagal eh. Siyempre, ikaw yung pinakamaraming mo gagawa. Salamat.
Meron pang iba katanungan?
I'd like to give my remarks. So first, I'll introduce myself. My name is Cholo Alaguer. I'm a BA Anthropology major. And my grandfather on my dad's side is Eduardo Alaguer. He was a proponent of the Light the Fire movement back during the Marcos years, where they planned and burned down the Comelec building during their time. So I'd like to add a few points to create a fuller picture of the context back in the Marcos years, based on, aside from what is conventionally thought about martial law, I also learned from what my lolas wrote and what my family members have told me about business and the climate during martial law. So you have to acknowledge na hindi lang si Marcos yung isang nagpapatakbo ng martial law regime. Kasi bukod doon, meron siyang grupo ng mga cronies na nakapalibot sa kanya. They seized control of companies in vital industries. And Marcos supposedly gave tax breaks to Lushatan, for example, sa tobacco industry. Tapos, yung ibang kontrata na sinagawa sa ilalim ng Marcos administration, kagaya ng sa Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, I forgot his name, pero they say that doon talaga nagkaroon ng malalaking kickbacks. Basically, we loaned a lot of money during the martial law period, at yun ang binabayaran natin ngayon. And from that money that we borrowed during the martial law years, yung country natin basically, a lot of that money went to Marcos, the group of Marcos and his cronies. They seized control of vital industries. I think kasama doon ng ibang companies ni Lopez. And parang when martial law is discussed, to me, ang narrow ng binibigay ng konteksto it usually relates to the activism during the time of Marcos. It doesn't really talk about yung money na nakapalibot, kung sino yung nabibigay ng pondo, kung sino yung sumusuporta kay Marcos. It's puro Marcos. And you have to acknowledge the fact that you have a static image that you give us, yung mga activists na nagsasalita tungkol sa martial law. You give us a static image of Marcos, 40, 30 years ago. And you also have to acknowledge the fact na sina Bongbong Marcos, pwede silang magbago. Kung ano yung imahe nila noon, they can change. Parang kung nang-rape ka ng tao 40 years ago, ano naman ang magiging weight nun sa'yo if you've changed 40 years since then? Parang hindi naman, I doubt that yung kasalanan ng family member mo, yung madadala mo yung gravity niya throughout your lifetime. If the activists here would want to retain their perception of martial law in social memory as they saw it, they would have to provide us with a fuller context. As in, sino yung mga players ng martial law? Hindi lang pwede sina Marcos lang. Kailangan ninyo ipaliwanag na may mga kasamang negosyante na nakapalibot kay Marcos. Tapos sa side din nina Ninoy, parang sino-sino sila. And what have they done in our government, for example, especially with Noynoy Aquino currently in our administration. But I'll save my criticism of Noynoy Aquino because I believe that he doesn't know better. He doesn't know how to lead. Parang pinasok niyo si Cory and all these succeeding presidents, but the thing is, our educational system is lackluster. You have people who, as our previous speaker has mentioned, don't know how to think critically in general. Tapos ang sinasabi nga ng dating NEDA secretary ni Marcos, si Gerardo Sicat, he was my professor in Econ 11. He was telling us that the current system of laws and in the Constitution, there are provisions which block foreign direct investments or the opportunities for FDIs from coming into our country because we pretty much in the Constitution which Cory and company wrote, it pretty much insulated us from foreign capital, which has its pros and cons. but for as its pros, ang masasabi ko dyan, yung constitution natin, it protects us from the influence of foreign capital. Yung hindi tayo nakokontrol masyado ng mga foreign interests or foreign companies dahil yung capital nila wala masyado dito, nasa ibang bansa sa ASEAN region. So that's what I'm saying. If you want us to learn more about the context of martial law, and if you want to retain it in social memory, you have to do a better job in providing us with the context. You can't just limit yourself to your own perspective. You have to include the perspectives of those people who were working during martial law, the perspectives of the oppositionists, etc. That's all.
Thank you. Kaya Butch Hernandez would like to be
You're the grandson of Ed talaga? I see. I worked with him at that time. Ed and Otto Jimenez. We've met them. Okay, you said put it in clear context, add more perspective. I don't know how clear we can be at that time. Before you continue,
Sir, I'd like to interject a point. Well, basically, I'm talking from the perspective of my generation because
Yes.
what we're taught is basically yung condensed version na ito ang nangyari. Yung mga emphasized events are the EDSA Revolution 1986. Yung mga events during martial law, yung martial law years, hindi siya, it's not really clear eh.
Correct.
Yung
there is no disagreement there, Mr. Olaguer. My point is that all the information that you want is actually there, waiting for you to process. This is the University of the Philippines. Hindi uso spoon feeding dito. Di ba? Lahat ng kailangan yung malaman tungkol sa martial law, nandyan na. Andyan ang mga profesor na dumaan sa panahon na yon at maliwanag pa ang kanilang alaala tungkol doon. My own classmate was sitting there sa harap ng just steps nagkaroon ng Diliman commune. Nandun siya nung binaril ni Campos yung isang bata doon. Ganun kaliwanag yung panahon na yun sa amin at hindi pa martial law yun. Noong panahon ng martial law, naghirap kami lahat. Pero hindi namin kayo sinisisi. Ganun. My point is, all the information that you need is really there, lalo na ngayon. Social media is there. All the libraries are accessible to you internationally and locally at the click of a button. All you need to do is read. And yet, you listen to drivel like what the videos that Dr. Llanes was showing. Ang daming likes noon sa Facebook. Bakit mas konti yung mga nagsasabi na hindi ganyan yun? Bakit? Kulang daw sa informasyon. Read. Research. Everything you need is right here, right now, in this new world of technology-driven media.
I think I recognize Professor Llanes first and then Professor Mendoza.
Yung point ni Mr. Olaguer, okay naman yun. From my end, and I think even other professors, I teach history, Bong teaches political science. Yung understanding naman namin ng martial law is not focused on Marcos alone. Kasi when you have to understand martial law, you have to understand the nature of fascism. And fascism is monopoly control of everything. The economy, the state, the social life, culture, the arts, lahat yan. And totoo naman yung sabi mo na martial law or the fascist state became possible during the time because na-achieve ni Marcos and his mga kasama niya yung total control of everything. If you study yung mga history ng fascism around the world, that is the very nature of a fascist state, that you have to develop a cadre or a cadre of people who would put up yung fascist rule. Halimbawa, si Hitler, he co-opted intellectuals to do the project that he wanted to accomplish. Marcos was also like that. mga intellectuals, he co-opted them. Like history, many our department were co-opted. Our own department, they wrote yung, I have the book, Hana. Kaya nga, yung point ng rehabilitation, revising history, mukhang hindi naman talaga ngayon yan. And Marcos was really good at it because as early as his rule, tiniyak na niya na the narrative that would be provided to the next generation would be his narrative or the narrative of his regime. At yun, ito, Tadhana. And the title is, eerie, diba? Tadhana. And mukhang yung Tadhana, tumutuloy talaga kay Bongbong. I mean, I'm not pro-Marcos, pero by the looks of it, they have it well crafted, the way Marcos did before. And you cannot do it alone. You cannot be Marcos alone. You have to have propaganda people who will design these videos that act subliminally. So you need good media people there. You need economists who would make possible the control of the economy. You mentioned the person dun sa Bataan nuclear plant, that's Rehimeng Marcos. So people like this. And so the particularity of fascism here was the phenomenon of cronyism. So what I'm trying to say is, hindi naman nakafocus lang tayo sa isang tao. And even the way I present this in the limited time and space doon sa classroom is not probably what you're thinking. It's not what exactly you're thinking na nakafocus lang. We have to, yun nga ang problem. Bakit yung mga textbooks din yan? I read to you one. This is 1989 published. This is a textbook in Kasaysayan at Pamahalang Pilipino. 1989 to publish. One of the authors, patay na siya, Brother Andrew Gonzalez. 3 years after EDSA. Sabi niya, EDSA, mga naisa katuparan, sa pagwawakas ng batas militar pagkalipas ng 9 na taon, maraming mabubuting pagbabago ang naisa katuparan para sa kapakanan ng bayan. 3 years after EDSA. Ito naman ang textbook. Kaya maganda yung pinakita ni Butch, ni Mr. Hernandez. Yun precisely sinasabi ko. May conscious na revising on the part of the Marcoses and their instruments. Pero, kung tutusin, hindi nila kailangan gawin. Because the machinery that provided the infrastructure for fascism to flourish is still there. Okay, ito ipa-prove ng DepEd. So in other words, yung mga teachers na sinasabi niya, lalo na kung ang mindset ng teachers who benefited from Marcos, they would produce textbooks like this. And when you would have millions of school children who would be thinking this way, na okay naman. Tapos makikita mo nga na nothing really changed. Di, pare-pareho lang sila. You would not associate Marcos with the dark period as the radicals would have it. Ibig sabihin, ihiwalay mo siya, lalo na, anak naman siya. Bakit mo naman i-associate siya dun sa responsible dun sa martial law? Of course, I don't exactly agree with you na hindi natin pwedeng i-associate si Bongbong because he is defending the Marcos estate. Kaya hindi mo siya pwedeng ihiwalay doon. If we really have to be comprehensive about it, isasama ko talaga siya when I teach. Kasi tama yung sinabi ni Eta Rosales na sinasabi naman niya okay yung ginawa ng tatay niya. Sana kung mag-dissociate siya doon, then genuinely, pwede mo siyang i-dissociate. Sabihin niya, nagkamali talaga tatay ko yung mga gawa natin. Pero hindi naman ako si Ferdinand Marcos, I'm just the junior. Hindi naman ganun ang position niya. And in fact, for example, paano ngayon yung mga ill-gotten wealth? Who protects it? Siyempre yung nagmana, wherever that is. Because our definition, kasi after EDSA, we now have a definition of what ill-gotten wealth is. Ill-gotten wealth is wealth that you earn na hindi mo ma-earn had you not been in that position. The definition is very simple. Wala naman silang big business noon. But if you look at the records of the PCGG, where could have they gotten this wealth? Well, they were in power. Before, ano bang businesses nila? Wala. Lands, wala. And by law, ginto nga. Was it gold trading or was it gold raiding? Diba? Gold trading ang sabi, no? Kaya nga, part of the fascist kaya tama yung sabi mo, hindi lang naman si Marcos yan, but part of it would be culture. So the idea of creating myth, o yung myth ng Yamashita treasure, was there really a Yamashita treasure? Or was it just concocted to justify yung possibility na, ay kaya mayaman sila kasi may Yamashita treasure? Because during the Ramos regime, I think they also went into this project of looking for the Yamashita treasure. Panahon ni Marcos. Ida Cory's time also. Na talagang hanapin, nasan ba yung Yamashita treasure na yan? So in other words, tama yung sabi mo na, hindi yung simpleng isang tao lang. It was a system. And that's the nature of fascism. That's what I teach, or other professors na maliwanag kung ano nangyari ito. Ang problem nga lang is transmitting this to the ordinary population. And if you have teachers like that, tulad ng present ni Mr. Hernandez, eh paano mo may papaliwanag? So, do you need any revising there? Do you need any historical revision there? Mukhang hindi. Kasi it's there embedded. It was not really expunged out of the sight of the Filipino people. And sino nagkulang? Eh baka kami rin mga aktivista nagkulang. We were busy with redefining our career. And it's only now, for example, that the state, no, is doing something about it. Kasi sabi, mukhang part na ng batas na ituturo sa grade school. But the Marcos Jr. is already knocking on the door sa Malacanang. Are we too late?
Professor Mendoza, please. Okay. Mr. Custodio.
Hello, sorry I came late. But anyway, did anybody discuss here about yung the growth of fascism, di ba? The perceived failure of institutions that make fascism become appealing to certain, to say the population, for example, in that case of social media. Say how do you say it? These likes that appear in Facebook pages, okay, harking back to the is sometimes can it be brought about by perceptions in the general public that existing institutions are not, doing the job that they are mandated to. Okay, and I'm not talking about the mission today. I'm just talking about since 1986 and so on. Okay, because how do I say this? The thing is that fascists basically, they are a bunch of opportunists. Okay, they prey on weaknesses of a society. They see that there is perceived failure of institutions, then they project themselves as the viable alternative. Diba? Parang gano'n ang nangyayari, no? So, and then the common people, not knowing anything better, basically, they tend to gravitate towards that, no? And that's why in the case of Adolf Hitler, he was elected into office because of the failures of the Weimar Republic, or Hindenburg, I presume. In this case, we're talking about the system here, because of the developments in our society right now, the threat of fascism may not just come from the one side of the political spectrum or the factions, like say in the case of the Marcoses, because at the time, martial law, it was Marcos and his cronies who spearheaded this. But this time, there is a possibility that it might even come from the military itself, which is going to be new from the previous experience that we've had. So, did anybody mention here about failure of institutions, perceived failure of institutions? So just asking here.
Professor Mendoza.
From 1946 to 1972, the ruling classes of the country were divided into two factions, the Liberal Party and the Nationalist Party. And they adopted an informal rule of rotation in power. Liberal muna, Nationalista, sila yung nasa palasyo. And then while in office, The rule is plunder the public treasury to the extent that it can be done and take advantage of the opportunities of office. Mr. Marcos violated that informal rule in 1969 when he got re-elected. That was the start of warfare between the Marcos faction and all anti-Marcos members of the ruling faction. Which is why the Liberal Party, including Ninoy, flirted with the New People's Army. Lopez opened Manila Chronicle to the student movement to attack Mr. Marcos. And the situation reached up to the critical level where Mr. Marcos decided to take power. And he justified that by saying he was besieged from the left and from the right. Marcos is not just Marcos. Hitler is not just Hitler. It is an entire system. Marcos authoritarian. The correct term should be Marcos authoritarian system. I hesitate to call it Marcos fascist system because that's too European. And the key components there would be the military, the cronies, the bureaucracy, the co-opted intellectuals, the United States, because the United States have favored the authoritarian system, and that lasted until such time that the regime could be sustained. It went into a crisis, or started going to a crisis in the late 70s when the world economic crisis was also starting, because we cannot export our products. And you had a political crisis with the assassination in 1983. So you went through a change. We sort of went back to the 1972 system, but there was an injection of people power in our post-Marcos system. Ang hinahanap ng ating mga mamamayan, gaano katotoo itong people power na to? Totoo bang naglilingkod ang pamahalang ito para sa amin? At nangyayari, hindi nila masyadong nakikita ito, kaya kumakapit sila. Ang hindi nila nabibitawan, sa tingin ko, ang hindi nila nabibitawan, yung pagboto. But katulad na binabanggit ni Mr. Hernandez, it also raises false hope. Kung uncritical yung electorate, talagang we get the leaders you vote into office. So, ewan ko kung makakaalis tayo dito sa vicious cycle na ito. Maraming salamat.
Yung magandang masarap pag-usapan talaga ko yung sinabi ni Professor Mendoza, yung electorate, na talagang critical po sila. Ngayon, ano po ba ang make-up itong electorate natin? Nakakalungkot po, pero talagang ang bumoboto talaga, wala senador, ano pa niya, ano po yung A, B, C, D, E yan para sa SWSP po, di ba? At saka, yung CDE, yun ang marami, yun ang critical, yun ang pag-asano yun ang repel weather, parang kung ito ka nang kakamali, mga 60 to 65% ng putante natin belong to that sector. Ang masakit po, yung pagka minsan nag-aaral kami, no, pagka nag-strategy making, gano'n. Minsan ang tawag natin dyan, without being disparaging or minsan, kasi para magkaroon ka ng classification, para nag-aaral ka, thinking voters, non-thinking voters. So, in other words, yung, ito pong electorate natin ito, parang ang kanilang criteria sa pagboto minsan ay kaiba. Kaya parang, in other words, madali yung, kumbaga tatapatan mo lang yung lines. Ganito yung voters education na tinatawag. Dapat talagang malaking-malaki yun. Hindi lang parang isang COMELEC project pagka yung election na voters education. Gusto ko lang i-flow to sa panel.
Professor Eusebio, na-involved din ako sa isang kampanya, national campaign noong 2007, kaya malapit sa akin yung sinasabi niya. Totoo yan. Ang electorate nga natin kasi, hindi naman not to denigrate them, pero they really can be manipulated. In fact, I've dealt with a lot of what they call political operators when I was in our campaign office, who come and tell us, I will deliver this many voters to you. Tapos na yun na, negotiation na yun. Ano ang point ko dito? What I'm saying is, I saw something different in 2007. Mukhang nagbabago na yung electorate din. Kasi, tinatanggap nila yung inaalok ng mga operators, but they still vote for whoever they want. Hindi na sila parang ikaw nakita mo na rin yun di ba? Hindi na sila sumusunod sa
Yes, sir. You're referring to sa mga bilihan mo na hindi ko yung ibig sabihin. Isa rin po yun, no? Yung akin po yung bang kailangan meron akong concerted effort. Hindi ko malaman kung saan dapat panggaling ito, kung sa academe, kung sa gobyerno, o both, o sa NGOs. Paano natin itatakas yung antas ng ordo, sabihin natin kasi poverty yan wala kasi silang hindi sila nakapag-aral, so parang undereducated. No? If you're undereducated now, how then can you make an intelligent vote? Diba parang kung gano'n? Paano ka boboto ng, di ba sabi nyo nga po, sabi ni the late Commissioner Heidi Ora, di ba? You get what you deserve, or you deserve who you vote. Parang gano'n. So, aking gano'n lang ang mangyayari. Dahil ito yung talagang, kumbaga sa kung may dictatorship ang dictatorship, ang power naman talaga nasa butante rin, under democracy. Ngayon, kung ang pinagagalingan ng power, kumbaga sa hindi naman ayokong sabihin yung para bang yung term na ignorance, no? O para sabihin natin, blissful. Naiintindihan niyo po ako kung ano pinupunto ko sa that is the crux, one of the major points. Yun ang nagiging problema po kasi halimbawa may tatakbo kahit na kung sino na lang, hindi naman talaga tapat, gano'n, eto na. Tapos ang pleno siya, hindi naman yung guns, guns, and gold. Of course, that is more medieval. Wala na sa atin yun. Well, siguro, doon sa mga talaga remote areas na lang. Pero sa Metro Manila at saka sa senatorial, national, hindi na. Kaya lang, nandun pa rin yung bulk naman ng boto. Magagaling po. So I really do not know how, maybe the students, we can hear from the students too, how this, how do we educate the voters na hindi lang sa information drives or the normal HOPE slogans.
Ako I'd like to address the youth here today, kaya mga kabataan. Paano nyo papaliwanag sa komunidad nyo ang pagkakaiba ng civics at saka history? Kasi nandyan yung confusion Bakit bumuboto ang isang botante ng isang, balik natin. Bigay ko ulit favorite example, si Manny Pacquiao. Bakit niyo bumuboto yan? Bakit niyo binoto si Era? Diba? Bakit niyo binoto yung mga, like I said, kung sino-sino na lang dyan, nananalo. Dahil may appeal, dahil nakikita sa radyo, nakikita sa TV, dahil, ano ang pinakamadalas na nadidinig kong komento? Kasi madali siyang lapitan, kasi nakakatulong siya. Diba? Pero hindi nga ganun ang hindi civics yun Hindi ganun Bakit? Anong tingin nila sa Kongreso? Pinupuntahan lang yung pakahingan. Samantalang hindi maliwanag sa electorate ano ang diferensya, ano pagkakaiba ng legislatura
ng executive branch at saka ng judiciary. Para sa kanila, pare-pareho lahat yan. Kaya buboto na lang natin yung popular. The onus is on you. Dahil kami mga matatanda, medyo lipas na kami. This world is yours to deal with as you please. Diba? Bago na mundo ngayon. Mobile content, digital creativity, digital content, speed of light communication, mga wiki. These are your tools at your disposal. No? Katulad namin, ng mga aktivista kami noong panahon, yung tingin namin, yung pagsisigaw namin sa kalye, pamumundok namin, yun yung pamamaraan para magkaroon ng pagbabago. Iba na ang mundo ngayon. Alam nyo yun kaysa sa amin. Alam nyo na marami na makabagong pamamaraan para magkaroon ng tunay at lehitimong pagbabago. So it's on you.